E'Claire Makery Podcast. I'm so excited to have you this season. We are going to have so many guests who are going to share all about crocheting, designing, running a crochet business, anything that you might want to know. I've gathered a bunch of different designers and crochet bloggers together to share all of their expertise with you, and I can't wait to share all of the interviews that we are going to have. Originally, when I filmed this episode of the podcast, I was hoping that we'd be able to do it as a YouTube live, but sometimes the best laid plans get changed with technology, and this week's episode we were not able to fully do it as a YouTube live stream. So instead we filmed it as an Instagram live video, and I recorded it so that you would be able to watch my interview with this week's guest, Plumeria Maui. We talked all about different things with crocheting, creativity, sources of how we find our creativity, how we work through different slumps when you have that kind of crochet block, either if you're a designer or a maker. And it was a really fun interview. So I have the format of it, because it was filmed as a Instagram live. It is done in more of the format of it's more of a long style versus filling up your whole screen. But if you just want to listen to the audio of it, you totally can. The whole interview is there for you to watch or listen to, and it was just super fun to get to hang out with Tonya and do that interview. So I hope that you enjoy it, and be sure to hit the subscribe button below and like this video so that you don't miss out on any of the upcoming podcast episodes that will be happening the rest of the year. And let's go ahead and get to this interview. So Tonya, we were talking about how creativity in crochet is really hard to sometimes be consistent with, especially when you're having to design, keep up a blog, do all of that. So what are some different things that you found or that you struggle with in terms of being consistent with creativity and crochet?
First, can you hear me with these on?
I can hear you. Hear you.
Okay, because I just reconnected my Bluetooth, and I'm like, can she hear me? Can she not hear me? And the first time I'm going to use these.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let me recollect my thoughts. So
okay.
Yeah, with designing, I would say, I think for me, like I was saying before, like the hardest part is planning the math, and like, because I can flow with designs, and I have a type of a mind that I can see something and I can see it in my mind and remake it with shapes, but the math, like making sure that the math adds up, that
Yes.
it can be sized.
Right.
You, as well as other designers, really inspired me that when I started to do any type of garment design, I really wanted to be size inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really waited until I felt comfortable that I could do that. And it does feel really good to be size inclusive.
Oh yeah, it really does. It definitely feels good. I like to be able to say that like I'm able to include everyone in my designs, and I try to make them also be able to be adjusted for people as well. Hello, Kate. Hello, everyone.
I see everybody. But I would say too, the other thing that I've been thinking about lately is, now that I've been crocheting and knitting more, I'm finding that my likes of yarn has changed.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's even from like last year, even 6 months ago, and like whether it's a headband or a bag or a garment or a hat, a blanket, like I'm looking back even at stuff I made. I've been cleaning a lot, so I've been finding stuff I made 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, a year ago. And it's so interesting to see how my choices have changed, just for the fibers themselves. And like I love working with merino wool now, and it's just, there's like, I think I've told you before, like I've always had a very slightly strong reaction to acrylic on my fingers, and it's like almost like I get a rash, a contact rash. And I don't get that with merino wool, 100, like superwash merino wool. Like, it's like, to me, it's like working with butter. Like, it's just like, it's soft and it's like, oh, it's smooth, it flows. And yeah, so I find myself just staring at all my like my wool, my superwash, and I'm like, can I make that for summer?
Right, right.
Can I use that for summer?
I
Can
know
I
that
like,
I know that like some people will say that merino, the superwash merino, it has like a certain property to it where you're able to like it kind of adapts as the to the weather.
it does.
But
Chisette just asked, she said she's never worked with merino. Am I missing out? I I will say in a way, yes,
yeah.
because it like when I living where I am, I had no access to any like I had like the only wool was like the that like the Lion brand. They have like that like slightly blend of wool. I forgot wool ease.
Oh yes, yes, yes,
That was
yeah.
the only wool I was exposed to. And I am highly allergic to that
Yeah.
actually. As soon as I start working with that, I
Me too, I
very
get so itchy.
itchy. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but once I got some like just hand dyed yarn with superwash merino wool, I was just like, oh my gosh, I am missing out
Right.
because and I'm hoping to do a blog post in the next month or two about how you can get merino wool inexpensive. Like there are sites where you can get it bare and dye
Oh,
it yourself, and
yeah.
it's not too hard to dye it yourself. But then like there's sites like We Crochet and Knit Picks where they sell merino wool options in dyed colors that are very affordable, and the colors
Yeah.
are gorgeous.
And the yarn, their yarn, I've been working with that a lot in my recent designs, and I love it. We crochet
Yeah,
yarn, especially the merino wool stuff. It's great. I love it.
yeah.
And
And
it's very, very affordable.
exactly, and I find that for me before this pandemic started, but even now, so even more because I think a lot like our economy is definitely going to change, and for people
Yeah.
financially, it has, and it's gonna continuously change, and so I'm not. Uh, I've never had access to like Joann's or Michael's,
Oh,
and
right, right.
now I see other friends on the mainland who are like heartbroken because they can't go to like Michael's or Joann's, and I'm like, yep, I know
Yep.
that
You're like,
you
that's
feel my
every day.
pain. And like I'll have to share this real quick. Our Walmart, the aisles of fabric are completely empty, and there's only a tiny bit of
Wow.
yarn left.
Wow,
Because
that's
there's just
crazy.
it's just a half an aisle of Walmart. That was our yarn, and then like
Oh,
two
yeah.
aisles of fabric. But yeah. So, anyways, I'm feeling like just more so. What's important is like cost, fiber, how,
Right,
des
right.
design. Like, how can somebody easily remake what I am going to design for them or one of their family members or a friend?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know how you've been on it. I was on it the beginning of this year, and then the pandemic hit, and I have three kind of winter, fall, spring cardigans,
Oh, yeah.
and I have I that I need to grade, and then I'm like, is it even too late to grade them because we're going into summer? And then I'm like,
Oh, true.
how do you feel? Like, what do you think? Do you think that it's like, do you feel people are more like seasonal, like, or because then you have the Southern Hemisphere, like
Right,
I'm just as close to Australia as I am to you.
right, right. You know, that's a really good question.
I
I
know.
feel like right now a lot of people are doing like, I don't care what time of year this make is for, I need something to
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like people are more willing to do those different designs. I know that I've been
Mhm.
using like merino wool for some stuff, for some summer things, just because that's what I have and it's lightweight.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I mean, what are if
I was just reading
everyone
the
who's watching right
comments.
now, do you guys feel Yeah. Do you guys feel like you can easily make stuff no matter what time of year it is? Like you don't care if it's a chunky cardigan or you don't care if it's this, or are you more
Mhm.
like, no, I need to be seasonal? Because like where I live, it gets to be over 100, and
Yes,
so
same here.
it's really, really hard to work with wool during that time of year,
I
during the
will say
summer.
though, working with merino wool is not as bad. Like it doesn't feel as heavy. And like I did a lot of knitting last summer, and it was almost easier for me to work with the superwash merino wool than acrylic because gets over 100 here, and the humidity is usually 100%. And I found like with acrylic, if your hands get sweaty, then it's like you're like
Right, right. And then it like
I don't know how
then
else to explain it.
the fuzz gets in your fingers. Bleh.
Yeah.
No, I know last year I know someone was saying like a bunch of people are like, yeah, I'm fine working on cardigans, fine working on this
Yeah.
stuff. Last summer I think I was making a blanket, and it was so hot, and I was like, no, I've got to finish this design. I've got to do it. But man, it was a struggle with acrylic yarn. That is for sure.
Yeah,
And
I'm just reading through everybody's comments, and yeah, I think in general people don't like Leanna. Yeah, I'll make anything any time of year, but maybe not a blanket on my lap in the summer. I do
right,
agree with that. Like it is a big difference if you're making a cardigan to you're making a blanket because you get halfway through the blanket and you're like you have nowhere else to put it
right,
except for your
exactly.
lap.
Yeah,
Because
you
I'm the
can't like twist your body. I've tried to do that. It's very
yeah.
uncomfortable, and keep that crocheting for a couple hours, and no, it doesn't happen, doesn't work. I really feel like that, like talking about all of this is a good point of I think that as a designer, it's really hard to stay um, consistent with keeping up with trends and keeping up with different seasonal things because there
Hmm.
is a lot of pressure to do that. Do you feel like you get into a slump ever with having that type of stuff, like where it's
Oh,
really hard to
absolutely.
keep up with all of that?
Well, I feel like I'll be ahead of the ball and then my kids get sick. And then I'm like 10 steps behind. And then when they're better, then I'm like 20 steps behind. And then I'll work really hard to get caught up. And then, they get sick again or something happens or I get sick. And I think life is a constant throw of curveballs. Um, for me as a mom, because I have four boys and I have a variety of ages, from a preteen all the way down to a toddler and who will soon be a preschooler. And there's no guarantee. Like I could plan,
Right.
I could do my best, and it's constantly a challenge. It's
Yeah.
there's never. I don't even. I'm like trying to think of something positive to say. The positive things is that if I even when I stick it out, like it's good to see that doesn't matter whether it's April or August, that things can get completed.
Right.
If that,
I
if
know
that,
I run into that similar thing with my health. I if someone says that they're sick, I get sick if they're around me. Like I have a pretty low immunity to different things, and then having chronic pain on top of that. It's it's really hard because I'm a planner. I love planning. I love having like I've planned out most of my designs for a while now, and I was hoping to have so many of them done already, in
hmm
terms of like different garments and things, but it's so hard when you can't rely on your own body, or like you
yeah,
can't rely on life to stay consistent so that you can do that, and those things pop up, and it's hard to not feel that pressure like, oh, I need to
yeah.
I'm not a good designer if I can't keep up with this stuff. Oh, I can't do this. I shouldn't even be designing at all. That's really hard.
Well, and that's the end of 2009, I felt like I got really into the down on myself and the comparison
Mm-hmm.
game and it was just really a scary, like I was just ready to call it
Yeah.
quits. And then
Mm-hmm.
I just had to just let it be. And then a few things came my way that uplifted my spirits and just wrote it out. But I would say life, and then as you become like a mom, like the one thing that comes
Mm-hmm.
is there's always this point of ultimate surrender. And I feel with what we do as we're I consider myself more of a virtual maker. Like we are women
Mm-hmm.
and men around the whole world that are a community, but we're not in the same building. We're
Right,
virtually in all
right.
different places.
Mm-hmm.
And like there is that place of surrender to be like we can do our best and then you have to surrender the rest.
Right,
And my
exactly.
life, motherhood, it's all like that.
Yes. Oh, so true. You have to be like, okay, this design can wait. Like, it's okay if it takes a little bit longer,
Yes.
especially if you're doing like a garment and you have to grade it, you have to get it tested. Like, it's
Yeah.
okay if it just takes more time. But it's so
Yeah.
hard when you see people coming out with a lot of different things and you're like, oh, but I could have my thing out right now.
Yeah.
But,
I, but I think
ah,
we have different circumstances. We have our own our own home life, our bodies, our resources. Like
mm-hmm.
and everybody. I was told many years ago, you never know what happens behind closed doors.
Right.
And and I get that same little twinge when I see other. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could keep up. I wish I could keep up.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Like, and they don't
Right.
know, So I Vincent,
Oh,
not bad. Like I would
mhm,
say
mhm.
he's always been a huge inspiration for me because he kind of goes on like truth,
Yeah,
he's very real,
for sure.
and he was somebody who really he gave me inspiration and to like take pictures outside, and then when I did it, and then he was like, awesome, and you never know too, like whose fire you're gonna fuel. Like,
Right,
how we inspire and keep up with each other. So I feel like that's the same when it comes to designers, and because
right,
we're essentially providing patterns for other people to make because not everybody wants to be a pattern designer, but
right.
everybody wants to make something.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Like, you never know what conversation you're gonna have is going to help inspire someone, or that
Yeah.
encouraging word is the thing that keeps them going as a designer. Because, like, I saw one of Kate was saying, like, designing is so hard, and it is.
It is. I
I,
was
and
just,
like we put a little bit of ourselves in every single design that we do, and so having like any criticism that gets to it, anything that's pointed out that might be wrong about it, like that is so hard to receive that, but it is needed sometimes just to help make our designs better. But
yeah.
I know 2 days ago I was ready to give up on designing. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. My husband is always like, no, it's okay. You can do this. You got this. But I was
Yeah.
like, no, everything's not working. I can't do this. I don't think I can be a designer. I shouldn't be a designer. That is a probably weekly struggle for me. I love designing, but it is also something that just takes so much out of me.
And now because I have three school age kids, and then Jasper, my youngest, would be in preschool next year. So with them in school, I was able to get so much done. And then now with them all home and they're all virtual learning or distance learning or homeschooling, it's like 8:15 and I can barely keep my eyes open. And
Oh,
usually when they were in school, I could get like 3 or 4 hours of like hardcore work done during the day. And then
mm-hmm.
at night after they went to bed, I could get like another 3 hours. And I'm literally lucky if I get 30 minutes now. And then I'll wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm like,
Oh,
I got nothing done.
oh, oh.
So that's been the last month, and so there's
Yeah,
that point again of like, well, I have to stay healthy and
right.
my designs aren't going anywhere. I have many that are completed or 90% complete. They'll get there, they'll come out eventually. I was
Right,
listening to
right.
Chastette says, I have an amazing pattern tester that destroys my patterns in a good way. She finds everything. Yep, those are the best. I have a couple of those too. And um, they've become very good friends of mine because I will go to them strictly because I know, be like, hey, do you want to test a pattern? And they will break it down and be like, yes, no, what is this?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know I gotta say that my testers for my first bloom sweater, which Fatima from Aquarius makes. She's one
Mm-hmm.
of them. Just all of those testers, they have been so patient with me because that design was probably that was my first colorwork sweater. Oh, yeah, and Crafts by Sarah Liz. She's exactly who I was going to talk about right now. But she's completed doing the test. She found every single thing that was wrong with it, that I didn't word right. She found stitch count issues, and what helped is she's a designer herself, so she goes through that, so she was able to pick through everything. But that sweater, it's been crazy of seeing how doing that design versus like my honeybee tee that I'm wearing right now, my
Mm-hmm.
testers are almost completely done with the yoke. A lot of them are, and because I've learned how to word it easier, how to write it easier, but it definitely takes testers to help you see, what am I doing wrong with this? Why is
Yeah.
this not working? And I wish right now I honestly want to go back and just completely rewrite my first bloom sweater pattern because I know I could do it better, but
I
I
know.
can't do that to my testers. So we're gonna
Yeah.
just keep working through what we've got.
I felt that way too when I did my first cardigan. Like I got 3/4. I'm like, I should just rewrite the whole thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, they'd help me critique it enough. But I'm trying. I have a cardigan of Fatima's yarn that I've been sitting on, and it's so pretty. It's definitely more fall and wintry, but I can't wait to share it because it's it's so pretty, and it's one of those I'm like, is it going to be too warm? And I'm like,
Right,
no,
right.
I'm gonna just have to come out with it because
Yes, I want
it's
to see it.
it's too pretty to not share. It's really pretty.
Right. Oh yeah,
And
I totally wanna look at it. Oh yes, Chris
okay,
said, but it feels like there's part of us designers who want to hear it's perfect, no problems at all, but also no. I feel that so deeply. I want all my patterns to be perfect and
yeah,
no issues at all, but hmm.
I think in I think no matter how many eyes you can get on it, there'll always be like a comma at a place or a period at a place or like the like a semicolon or something.
Or
Like
a
there's always
space.
a
One too many
space. Like
spaces.
you're like, wait, how many people like in every and I will say that like having a tech editor is
Yes.
life changing, but like you have to get it to her.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Oh yeah,
Study done.
it was crazy. I use Fiat Fiber Arts, which you use her
Hmm.
too, and
Hmm.
she's been so patient with me and helped me with all of this stuff because and she helped with doing some like grammar editing on my first bloom sweater pattern, and then I sent her this one and she's like, wow, this is so much easier.
Yeah,
So I was
yeah,
like, I'm learning how to do like I was amazed at how many different things that I didn't
yeah,
know about crochet
yeah,
pattern writing. And I've even gone back now and looked at some of my old patterns. I'm like, wow, I need to completely redo this. And like,
yes,
I've changed the formatting on so many things, and there's so much better patterns because I've
yep.
learned that. But it's oh sorry, my phone said I have low battery, but it's okay. Um, One thing that I've learned is trying to use those different techniques, those different technical stuff that we learn, and how do I channel that into my creativity? Because sometimes it feels like having to do all that technical stuff really hinders
Hmm.
creativity, but in the end, it really helps it and makes it a lot better. Do you feel the
I,
same
I
way?
I will add. I wish I could like draw like a fashion designer. They'd have these like, and there's some, I've seen some other makers that have beautiful, like their ideas and they're like these beautiful, fashionable. I, I have never been a sketch artist or a
Mm-hmm.
drawer ever. Like I'm always like pencil person, like stick person. Like I still do stick people and
I'm
like
so
stick
bad at
trees.
people.
I'm so
So
bad.
bad at drawing people.
So I really admire people that can like sketch or draw because
Mm-hmm.
to me I feel like that is probably, I like, yes, you could teach yourself, but people that do it naturally, like what my son, my eldest son, is and even my husband are just
Mm-hmm.
naturally can draw. And
Wow.
uh, so what I've been doing is not judging myself and allowing myself to draw my ideas. And even though
Mm-hmm.
they're nowhere near what I wish I could do, I'm at
Same.
least putting down pen to paper or pencil to paper what my idea is. And that's helped me so much, like just let go and but
Mm-hmm.
also visually.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great visual tool. It's a great visual tool. I'm a numbers
Yeah.
person. Like, yeah, give me some graph paper and some formulas and I'll make some graphs. But you have me draw like a cardigan, I'm like
Yeah,
block,
yeah.
block, block, arm, block. But give
Right,
me a
right.
yarn
I
and a
know
hook,
I
I
did
can make it.
right. Exactly. I know. I see. It's interesting how, since I've become a crochet designer, I feel like a lot of the way that I see things and think of things, um, how that has changed. Like, my mom used to tell me about how when she went to beauty school, how she dropped out because every time that she would go to church, she would look at the back of people's heads and see how she could cut their hair differently and better. And so she's like, I can't do that anymore. And so I was like, okay, I am going to, like, once I started crocheting and being a designer, I noticed that I found my creativity literally anywhere I went, and I started breaking down things of like, how can I make that into crochet? How can I
Yeah.
translate that? And I see it in my head, but putting it to paper, like I'd say I can do a good sketch, but if you want me to draw a person with that sketch, it's not gonna happen. It's just not good at that at all. Give me some
Yeah.
pixels with color work and I can draw you something great, but otherwise, if I can look at an artist's picture, then maybe I can do it, but on my own, my brain just does not see all the shadows and everything needed for that.
Exactly. That's how I started quilting when I was like 7, and my mom taught me how to sew, and I rarely needed patterns because I could see the patterns in my
Mm-hmm.
head. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like that with sewing before I was with crocheting and then with knitting. And so I think like I'm just a visual person, but I can do the visual with the math.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I'm not a sketcher or a drawer or a painter. Like I I mean, here where I live, and probably too where you live, there's definitely a variety of artists. And I
Yeah.
have one friend who is an amazing watercolor artist, and I'm just like, how do you do that? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like it looks so foreign to me. But then a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people do the same. Like, I'm sure if you're like, oh yeah, I made this top, and they're like, oh my God, you
Oh,
made that?
yes.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Like when I first showed, like people, it was really funny when I first wore my honeybee tee in public. Um, and I think I was at church or something, but people were like, they were nervous about asking me if I had made this because it looked really complicated. But anytime that I tell someone like, "Oh yeah, I made this," or "Oh yeah, I'm designing this thing," and they're like, "Oh, does that take you like months to make?" I'm like, "No, I can do it pretty quickly. I just came up with this thing and then I made it." And they're just like, "What? How is that even possible? How could you even do that?" But that's what I think about a lot of other people, like computer engineers. That is something that I'm like, my brain will never think that way. Computer stuff, I will never creatively be able to do that. But other stuff, I'm a lot better at.
I get the same thing. People are like, how long did that take you to make? And I'm like, oh, like a week. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, or hour, 2 hours. I'm like, and I always say, well, I definitely am a fast crocheter or a knitter. And they're
Mm-hmm,
like, oh,
mm-hmm.
okay. I said, and it would take you a little while, but you could still do it, and like, oh, okay.
Right,
It's just
right.
I get in my zone, like, and I don't know, I'll say that too. Like if somebody in the store, I'm like, no, I get in a zone and I just go, and they're like, oh wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And
And they always are like, that's so cool that you crochet. But then they'll
yeah,
call it knitting in the same conversation.
Yeah.
But we all have our thing.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. What do
Uh,
you do when you find yourself like in a creative slump? What are the things that kind of help you get out of that?
I would say I just put my hook and my needle and my yarn down. However, I will say I am inspired anytime I even like have yarn in front of me, so it's really hard for me to be uninspired.
Yeah.
Um, because I make so when I first started crocheting, when my mom was visiting, my third son was just a couple month old. He was 6 months old. My only reason why I wanted to learn to crochet was to make house stuff like hot pads and
Mm-hmm.
washcloths, stuff for the house, because I just
Yeah.
wanted to be more resourceful. So those are actually like my defaults. So if I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like doing anything, well, I can make a hot pad. I have plenty of patterns that I've had memorized or that I've made over and over again I could do in my sleep. Or like bottle bags or market bags or something that's just repetitive, and then like I feel like for me I shouldn't say I have to, but I do have to be using my hands to do something, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's just for 5 minutes a day. What am I working on right now? Oh, I'm working on a cover up skirt, like a bathing suit cover up skirt,
Ooh.
and it's a really simple pattern, and but it's just like like it's repetitive. So I've just been 5 minutes because I literally right now I have like 5 minutes,
Right.
like maybe like 3 times a day, and so I'll just get a couple stitches done, get a couple stitches done, and it's been um, it's just calming. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
just that calming sensation. So I try to remember why I crochet or knit to begin with. Yes, it's to
Yeah.
make stuff. I've gone beyond a hobby into making it a small business, but I try to go back to like, well, if I'm in a funk, there's probably a reason because I'm frustrated about something. But why did it's for me. It's for me to relax. It's for me to
Yeah.
enjoy. So the things I like to make are for the house, and I like to make bags. I have plenty of bags. I've got tons of friends that I've promised market bags that I have yet to deliver. Like, oh, I'll make you a bag. And then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, I
and it's
know.
kind
I know what you're gonna say. You go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say it's hard like for this time of the year, like like my kids, they're supposed to be out of school in 5 weeks. So
Oh,
I had teachers' gifts planned to make. And now I'm like, do I make them? Do I not make
oh,
them?
true,
And it's
true.
like, what do I do? Because they're not going back to school this year.
Yeah.
Our schools have been closed for
Same
the
with
rest of the
ours.
year.
Same with
And
ours, yeah.
I'm like, I guess I can mail it to them.
That's true. Or you could do a drop off. You could do the whole drive by thing and
Yeah.
drop it by the door.
No, I know all their teachers do like live within a block or two of me. So
Oh, nice, nice.
yeah. So we live in just such a small community, like they don't live too far.
Right,
And
right.
Sal's Crochet Creation said, I like to try and test a pattern for someone as it's something I know I have to work on. Yeah, making that commitment. I did that a lot last year. I think I did that a little bit more than I liked to last year because I got more behind and more behind on my own stuff. But
Uh-huh.
I do agree to test for somebody if that's like what helps you. It got me through last year, and now this year I've made a commitment to not test anybody's patterns because sometimes it stresses me out
Yeah,
by having that commitment.
right. Yeah, and that
Last,
talking about commitments really that brings up a good point. I know last year I felt like I prevented my creativity from truly being there because I signed up for so many guest blog posts. I was trying to do so many different commitments last year and like so many different blog hops where I needed to create a new pattern, so many different things that stopped my creativity from actually happening because I was trying to fill so many deadlines that I never could actually work on something that brought me a lot of joy.
Yes.
And that's, I think, why I didn't like doing garment design last year, because I felt like I was forcing myself to be someone that I wasn't. Like,
Yes.
I was feeling like I forced myself to be a designer that makes a lot of, like, that doesn't do color work at all. But that's where my heart truly was in that. And so I was trying to imitate a bunch of other designers who had that distinct style where they just use the same stitch throughout the whole thing. They have a certain style, but I had to like quit that for a while in order to find my creativity with that.
Yes.
And now that I've started doing the color work garments, I find so much more creativity in that, and I have so many more ideas. I've definitely found a lot more joy in that, but it's really hard to, when you're trying to grow, to not stump your own creativity, because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need to do all these things to be involved, to get my name out there, to do all of this. And so all those commitments end up hurting you instead of just doing a couple throughout the year.
Yeah.
And
I think
having,
there's only 24 hours in a day, 7 days a
right,
week, so many days in a month, and then 365 days in a year, and it goes really fast. And I did the same thing last year. I made a lot of commitments, and then I made commitments for testing. I made commitments for like blog hops and stuff, and then I got sick, and then I had certain things I could do and I couldn't do, and so I feel like, yeah, last year I put myself in that particular situation. And so towards the end of the year, when I was just like at that point of complete surrender, of like surrender as in, do I give up, or surrender in my expectations? And I
right,
had to surrender my expectations. And then I got this huge surge of creativity and some opportunities and some good working relationships. And yeah, and Fatima, with kids,
mm,
with kids, things don't go as planned most of the time. Absolutely, 100%. Like I love my kids, I do, and but sometimes they're extremely hard, like
yeah,
mind, body, soul, and then
yeah,
your creativity is like sucked out.
right, right,
Like, I
right,
just want my creativity back. But
yeah,
you're like we're human. We're
yeah,
so for me, I miss right now. I'm grateful that we're healthy. I'm
mm-hmm,
grateful we're together. I'm grateful my husband is working. However, I miss having peace and quiet where my
mm-hmm,
brain can relax. And that's when all my
yeah,
juices start flowing and my
right,
ideas.
right,
So, it's kind of a catch 22. Like
mm-hmm,
you just, so I try to find, like, even if I can go for a drive, like here we're
mm-hmm,
still allowed to go and do stuff like for essential. So I haven't taken my kids in a store for over a month now, but
yeah,
even if I just have to put them in the car and be like, or the younger two, and be like, let's go for a drive and just my brain to come like relax,
right.
then I'll like, okay, I can do this with that design. I can do that with that. Because my brain doesn't ever stop thinking about
Oh
designs.
yeah. Oh yeah. I know when a month ago when my husband had his appendix removed, that was
Yeah.
something that threw a wrench in all of my plans. I had planned to get a bunch of patterns out to testers that week. I planned to do different like a crochet along, do these different things, and I found all that stress. When stress just comes in, it just makes anything creative just disappear.
Yes.
It's crazy how, and I've found that just with the stress of so much of what's going on right now, it's really hard
Yeah.
to not let that affect each part of your life, but also giving yourself grace when you're like, okay, I need to take a mental health break. And I
Yeah.
think because as a designer, that's really hard, because there is this push, especially like right now, with this being a great time to drive traffic to your blog, because a lot of people are at home, so they have more time to
Yeah.
do that. And but it's really hard to not pressure yourself to be involved in everything, to get to work
Yeah.
24/7. I really struggle with that a lot. My husband can totally attest to that. He has to tell me all the time to stop working and set times for me to stop working, but it's really hard to not put pressures on yourself as a designer.
I think right now in our society with what's happening with the COVID-19 and like having a our essentially like you're in California, even in
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii, we're not on lockdown, but we're stay home, which is like
Yeah.
last weekend for Easter weekend, our island was on lockdown. And they
Mm-hmm.
just did it for that weekend. And then now this week they've tightened up some of the stay home policies,
Mm-hmm.
um, with like how many people can be in the car and how many people can go in a
Oh,
store
wow.
and blah blah blah. So our things are actually pretty strict here. Like you see, we like now we can't walk on the beach, but we can still go for walks.
Mm-hmm.
We could walk to the ocean, get in the ocean and walk back to our car. That just happened yesterday. They're no
Oh,
longer allowed to
wow.
walk or jog on the beach.
Yeah, they
Uh,
closed all California beaches down.
so I think with right now, I agree. Like my brain is going like, oh my gosh, I should be driving traffic. I should be getting a pattern out every other day. But then it's perspective. Like
Right.
I could be pushing myself, and then at the same time, it's like it's perspective. Like staying healthy is
Yeah.
probably number one on your list. It's number one on my list because without our health, whether we want to do the things we want to do,
Right.
the patterns, the blog posts, the
Right.
like being part of the community, if we're sick, we can't do any of it.
Exactly. My husband, he read this one book called The Infinite Game, and it was talking about how it was looking at different businesses and what are they focused on. Are some more focused on, okay, we're in the finite game where we're just trying to get this all out right now. We don't really have a long-term plan. We're not really trying to get to the future. We're just focusing on this moment. Um, and then the infinite game is more of, okay, let's do the long term goals. So we're going to take a little bit longer to do things. We're going to make sure that we can withstand all this different stuff. And I feel like right now as a designer, that's something that we have to go through is we have to remember we're in this for the infinite game, we're in this for the long term. If we do too much short term stuff, too much trying to get that out there, then we're gonna crash and burn. I did that last
Yeah.
year. I fit too much in a short amount of time, and I totally burnt out and had to stop doing stuff for a month. So if we want to keep designing and keep going, then sometimes we just have to take breaks, and that's okay.
Yes. And I think we're just all different in our own ways of how we
Yeah.
process and do stuff. But then also too, like again, like our home lives, like we have what people see and how we are. Not we don't always know what's happening behind closed doors. So
Right, right.
there's the one thing that we do have in common is that we all love to play with yarn and make beautiful things, and
Right, right.
we like pretty crochet hooks,
Yeah.
and you know that feeling of starting and progress and finishing. Like I think that's like our commonality. Like that's what brings us all together. So
Right.
I really try to focus on that, and that that's that's kind of like the core of why we get excited when we see other people's designs, or we get to talk to each other, or we comment on stuff, or we heart stuff, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
like it's just it brings us happiness. You know, like I that competition, community over competition
Yes,
in
yes.
its truest form is like that is our commonality. Like we all love to make pretty things,
Right.
whatever it may be.
Yeah, we love making things with our hands. We love being able to like wear what we make or use what we
Hmm.
make. I think that's something that's so cool about our craft is that we can use in almost our everyday life whatever we make. Like you could
Yes.
make a garment, you can wear that anytime you want. Whereas with some
Hmm.
other stuff, it's harder to do that. But crochet is something that we can do anywhere, anytime. And it's really cool seeing how that brings so many people together especially right now of like, we're like, we're all going through this really hard period all over the world, and we have crochet to help keep us going. Like, that is just helping a lot.
I've been doing increments of sewing masks. Like, I think I made like 30 to begin with, and then my husband was off for a few days, so I had him cut out like 70. It was actually ended up being like,
wow.
Yeah, it was about 70. And then now so then I had to get my taxes done this week and do some other, I had to get caught up on paperwork. I got the kids, took a couple weeks to get my kids in a little bit of a schedule. They're not completely, but, and then I'm like, I've got to finish these masks. I have them promised. And so I've been sewing, and it's such like, so you also now I'm sewing and I'm thinking, oh, I wish I was crocheting, because I do. It's like number one in my heart. And then, but then I'm like, no, I made this commitment. I have these sewing machines. I have all this fabric. I'm just going to finish it. And I know that people are so grateful, because here you can't go into a lot of stores without masks. Like it's like my creativity is just a little different, like today and yesterday. But I know, like today and tomorrow I'll finish. I have 60. I just mailed a few out, so I have about 62 more masks to make, to finish, put the straps on, and those are all already for homes. And then I asked my husband, will you cut out more masks for me tomorrow? I'll stencil them and he'll cut them. And then probably the end of next week, I'll make like another batch.
Wow.
But it's like, that's what my creativity is doing right now. So there's like, okay, switch gears. And
right. Yeah. Creativity comes in all sorts of ways.
Yeah. Like, I can't sew at night. I just cannot. I'm too tired. I mess up. But I can crochet at night. I can crochet until 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, someone said that their 3-year-old daughter is literally climbing the walls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
There are so many funny videos out there of little kids who are just losing it.
I've been a referee. Like, I should say I'm a mom first, but I'm really a referee first.
Oh,
because I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
And they're all boys.
And they're all boys, and they just want to beat each other because they're just bored, and they're used to being in their own classrooms with their peers, and they want to like body slam each other, or they want to go up behind each other and like scare each other, and then like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I've already lost my voice twice in a month just from yelling at them.
Wow.
And I just told them, I'm like, I'm not going to yell at you anymore. So.
Oh yeah. When my husband, he did some substitute teaching for a while, and he'll even do it during youth group too, is if kids are just too loud and too noisy, he'll just lower his voice down to like
get really quiet, be like,
and like, can you hear me? If you can hear me, then you need to stop.
Yeah, I just think I had to take off my headphones because I was actually wearing them because I was sewing before you and I started. It's okay.
Got a yarn fuzz in my throat.
And so I got noise canceling headphones, because like if I have to get on and type up a blog post or even type an email or even sew, like I just need it. They're fine watching TV. They're fine arguing, squabbling. Like, as long as I don't have to take them to the hospital, they're fine. And
my husband says that he's like, the best way to keep boys occupied, just let them wrestle each other. It's totally fine. And that, to me as a girl, that is so foreign to me. I'm like, why would you want to wrestle each other and like hurt each other? But no, that's fun. That's how we get all of our energy out. I'm like, okay.
So with my noise canceling headphones, my husband's like, do they work? And I'm like, yeah. You want to know what I hear? And he's like, what? And I'm like, I can hear the word. I can see the mouth, and I cannot hear anything. So they work.
That is awesome.
It's like mommy, like literally, like my son the other day, we got in the car, my 10-year-old, and he's like, mommy. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I forgot. And he's like, they're literally saying mommy just to say mommy.
So that's why my husband's like, they work. And I'm like, yes, because I can see their lips moving, but I can't hear a thing. So I can think, like, if I'm typing up an email, like, hi, Claire, how are you?
Yeah.
You know, or like, and I it's like, great, their mouths are moving, but I can hear my own brain thinking.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like our neighbors upstairs in our apartment, they play loud rap music all the time. And that is something that it is not my taste in music. And it's very loud. And so what I started to do was I just put I don't know why I haven't been doing this for longer, but I would just put my headphones in and then I just turn on my own music and I have it loud enough so that I can't hear anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And like all the creativity, all the ability to communicate comes back and to think because my brain's not having to struggle with the frustration of the noise and needing to get, because if I get too much input and noise, my brain just stops working.
So also E'Claire Crochet said I need to order me a set. So I'll share with you guys what I ended up getting, and this is just what I found. So I did a ton of research for headphones. Because I was like, if I'm going to spend $100, $150, $50, $200, and you and I both wear glasses. I normally wear glasses. I have contacts on like 50% of the time, but when I'm working, computer crocheting, knitting. And so what I found is to put headphones on. I actually can't wear these so much anymore as I'm getting older. They hurt my ears, but I could not find a headset that I could wear over my glasses.
Oh.
Because they pinch.
Right.
And then they pinch behind your ears. And so I had bought a pair at Target like 3 months ago and I returned them and they were an expensive pair. And Target had a thing where you can try on all the headsets. And the only ones that you couldn't try on were the Sonys, but I read all the reviews on Amazon, on like the Target app. And these ones, they were like kind of middle of the line. They're not crazy expensive. They're not cheap. They're $200. I just got them on sale for $130, and they're noise canceling. But I will say, if anybody wears glasses, that the review said that they were good for people that had like more, like not tiny heads, not big heads, like medium to bigger heads. But if you wore glasses, they didn't pinch behind your ears. So that's why I could wear these, because I can wear my glasses.
Nice.
And it's so awesome because I'm just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I would definitely say if anybody wants to invest in a good noise canceling, do read the reviews and find something that's going to work for you, because one, most stores aren't doing returns right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's why I before this whole pandemic thing went, I had bought a pair, I would return them, and then I just completely forgot. And then I'm like, I need to do my emails. Like, I've been trying to get some blog posts done. I've been trying to get my sewing done. I just need to concentrate. And then I was looking, and then these went on sale this week. And I'm like, there was 2 left in my Target here. And I'm like, I am not passing those. I don't care if I can't return them for another month.
Right.
I don't think they're going to do returns here until like May. Like, they have a sign.
Oh, wow.
And, oh my gosh, life changer. Like,
yeah. My dad would travel a lot when I was growing up, and so he was on planes all the time. And so he got some of those really nice noise canceling headphones too. And so every time he'd get on the plane, put them on his ears, turn it on, cancel all the noise, and just sleep through the whole plane ride. That was his.
So smart. That's it. And so I was just going to read through if anybody said anything. Oh, this is the countdown from 3 doesn't work either. Yeah, I've tried. Like, I'm going to give you 3 seconds. Oh, I found, so we have health food stores here, and we have like Whole Foods, and then we have a little chain called Down to Earth. I think they might have them in California. Down to Earth.
I haven't heard of them.
It's a Hawaii branch, but
it might be in LA. That's where it would be.
Yeah, I think it is
anywhere.
At the day after Easter, I had to go and get some vegetables, and they had like the organic Easter lollipops and gummies for 99 cents a bag, and they're like usually like $6 or $7 a bag. So I got like 3 bags of each.
Nice.
So I've just been like, okay, if you can be quiet for an Sal's Crochet says, I've got a pair of JBL brand, and then I hear that the boys are good too, but expensive. Yeah, I asked around, and a couple people did have the bows, and they are nice. And I was gonna get a pair from Costco, and they're actually on sale right now too. I just didn't want to pay over $200. Like I wanted a really like a decent pair, closer to 150. And then like I was looking at this particular style because I had good reviews. I always go off reviews. I don't necessarily go off like price, yes, like what's my price range, but what are the reviews? I try to read all the reviews, pros and cons.
Read all of the ones that are 1 stars too, just so that you
know I read them all.
People like these.
And
did you guys have anyone who's watching, do you have any questions for us about designing, about creativity? Because we'd love to answer any. I know that our hour for, I think Instagram Live still only go an hour, so that's almost up. But we'd love to answer any questions in the time that is left in this. I don't think I saw a lot earlier, but I'm really glad that everyone's been able to hang out with us. And thank you for everyone who was trying to watch the where do I start with the questions?
The other thing I'll add is that, you know, a lot of yarn companies right now, I think Joann's is kind of hit or miss and Michael's is hit or miss, but a lot of the yarn companies themselves are still like back on it with doing deliveries of yarn. I know a lot of people were asking if they've run out of yarn or how can they get yarn. I've seen that a lot on Facebook and a lot of the groups. But I think like Lion Brand, like Yarn Inspirations doesn't deliver to me here, but like We Crochet,
yes, We Crochet is doing it.
What are the other yarn
I know
companies?
Lion Brand, I believe Yarn Inspirations.
See, Yarn Inspirations doesn't deliver here to Hawaii anymore. Do they deliver to you? They're Red Heart.
I think they do. Yeah. I've just been using recently Lion Brand or We Crochet yarn.
Yeah, me too. But the yarn companies themselves are, I don't think anybody's been having any sales lately. You know, maybe they'll have some sales like more towards Memorial Day.
Right.
Because usually like that's tend to be when sales happen, but I've been seeing a lot of people that are asking where they can get yarn, how they can stash up on yarn, essentially, for like, a lot of people don't know how long the situation's going to last with being stuck at home. But I know those 4 particular websites that we mentioned.
They have.
And they have decent shipping, or like depending on where you live. If you live in like mainland United States or Canada, that, you know, the rates are somewhat fair. It says the Aussie dollar isn't good at the moment, so avoiding buying from us at the moment. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. And then I know I was asking somebody too, and that commented on one of my posts that was in Australia and said, right now it's definitely a little bit more harder in Australia to get yarn.
Oh, yeah. And I know Knitting with Chopsticks, she has a hard time with getting yarn in Malaysia. That's really hard. Which
I think too, in the Philippines too. I think that's like there are certain countries that their shipping is at a standstill. Crazy. I can only speak for like mainland US and where I am here in Hawaii. So I don't know like Canada's situation or Australia's situation, but
I know that Allie had asked what yarn companies we order from. Right now I've just been I've been getting a lot of yarn support for my designs, so I haven't personally been buying a lot of yarn, but I know that the two that my 2 favorites right now are Lion Brand and We Crochet. I know that both of those companies right now, because they are on a skeleton crew, that they need to, it takes a little bit longer to get the orders, but otherwise, those are good ones to do. I just got the notification that we've got 2 minutes remaining.
That went fast.
It did go fast. So thank you so much, Tonya, for coming and joining me. If anyone is watching the replay of this live, or they wanted to watch the YouTube live originally, I will be having this video. I'm going to try to get it onto my YouTube channel so that we can still have this as a podcast episode up on there. And thank you so much for joining us, guys. It was so much fun. I love getting to chat.
Thank you, Claire, for doing this and for us being able to connect. And
so fun. I love chatting with you. It's always great to chat over video.
They can do a heart.
Let's see, that's better. That's a little bit better.
Yes. I'm getting old.
Right. I'm like, how do we do this again?
Definitely thanks to everybody for listening to us and participating, asking questions. It's nice to see and hear what everybody else has to say as well.
Yeah, so much fun. And next week we are going to try to get the YouTube live working. We're going to figure out a way, because I love having the engagement from all of you guys. It's so much fun having a podcast episode with the input from everyone. So thank you all for joining, and I will talk to you later, Tonya.
Okay, bye. Talk to you later.
So I really hope that you enjoyed my interview with Tonya, maybe learned a couple things about how us designers find our creativity. I am working on a bunch of tech stuff behind the scenes this week so that I will be able to have this week's podcast episode as a YouTube live. If I have a guest this week, then we'll do the YouTube live together. And if it's just a podcast episode with me this week, then I will just do it. But I really want to be able to have you guys involved in each podcast episode and be able to participate in it with questions you might have for us, or just enjoy getting to hang out and crochet together. So be sure to hit the subscribe button below and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss out on any of my tutorial videos or upcoming podcast episodes, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like it below if you enjoyed watching it, and hit the subscribe button if you never want to miss out a video from me, and also check out my other videos and tutorials on my channel. See you next time.